Okay, so today I wanted to talk about squatting, squatting to depth, how I have fixed my squat and increased my depth. It's still not perfect by any means, but I definitely have made a huge difference in my squat, so I feel like this could be a video that's very helpful for others that are also struggling with getting depth, because I know it's frustrating. It's a little bit embarrassing if you can't hit depth because so many people will call you out for it and all that, which, I mean, that is another story on whether or not you should tell someone they're not hitting depth or not. But either way, I know it's something I've struggled with, so I feel like this could probably help some others out there who are also struggling. So let's get into it. I feel like first and foremost, the biggest thing that has improved my squat depth is stretching. Well, stretching and mobility, which I know everyone says, oh, I'm going to start stretching, or I need to stretch more, and then never really gets around to it. Hitting depth was so important to me that it is something that I actually started doing. I wasn't the most consistent with it. I won't say I did it every single day, but I did it at least every leg day. The extent of my stretching varied. Some days it was just going up to a pole, kind of sitting all the way down as low as I can, holding myself, stretching out my ankles and my hips, that kind of thing. And some days it would be like 5 different stretches, getting my ankles all stretched out, getting my hips all stretched out, all of that, which is obviously better. But some days I just didn't have the time or the motivation. And I'll actually do a separate video that shows all of the stretches and everything, because that I feel like will require more detail, and I'll show how I do them. But yeah, so I feel like stretching is the biggest thing by far for me, obviously, but there are many other things that have helped improve, because stretching alone was not enough for me. So another thing that I have found very helpful is getting a proper warm-up. This is also something that I feel like a lot of people skip over. I used to skip over it. It's very easy to be in a hurry. You're just trying to get your sets in. Crowded gym, you're just trying to get in and out. But warming up properly has helped so much. I do at least one set with just the bar, even though that's for my squat, that's nothing. It doesn't really feel like there's anything on my back. It's more so to just stretch out a little bit, really feel that stretch in my hips, in my ankles, all of that. And then I'll typically put, 25s on or something, drastically below what I'm going to squat, and again do at least 1 or 2 more sets. And in these sets, I'm not just doing normal squats. I'm going down and I'm doing pulsing reps or pause reps, or just something where I'm hanging out at the bottom of the squat for an extended period of time to really get that stretch in, and get comfortable at the bottom of the squat, because that's obviously the struggle if you have problems with squatting to depth. So doing that has helped tremendously. I think this also kind of leads into the next thing I'm going to talk about. Finding/focusing on your form. So everybody's form is going to be a little bit different. Some people have long torsos, short legs, so they might squat a little bit more upright, especially if they have a shorter femur. If you have a short torso, long legs, and long femurs, you might have to squat a little bit more bent over, or any combination of those. So everybody's squat is going to be a little bit different, along with bar placement, which kind of also ties into form. I have found over time that having the bar a little bit lower on my back helps. It's not quite a low bar squat. It's kind of like an in-between, I would say. I have longer legs and longer femurs, and then a shorter torso. So it helps me keep my balance if I do lean over a little bit in my squat, which if you've seen any of my videos, you can see that I'm leaning over a little bit. So the lower bar placement allows me to do that without falling forward, because the weight is a little bit further back. And that way the bar stays over my feet, because I'm leaning forward but the bar's further back. So my center of balance and all the weight is still over my foot, which is what you want. So finding your form and what's right for you is also going to make a huge difference. I'm sure you can look up like different forms for different body types, but also just going out and experimenting with the bar, trying different ways is going to help a lot. And then once you find that form, taking a couple leg days to really just focus on the form and not the weight. So like even if you have to drop the weight down to just the bar or just one plate, whatever it is, it depends on how strong you are. But if you need to decrease the weight substantially just to focus on the form for a couple days, it'll end up being worth it. For me, something that's really helped is really just focusing on dropping my hips down towards the floor and like in between my knees kind of. I don't think about hinging as much, even though I do hinge to squat. The more that I focus on just dropping my hips down has helped me a lot. But I did have to drop the weight to stop and focus on it, and I went slowly. I tried to like hang out at the bottom of the squat a little bit to get more comfortable down there, and that has definitely made a huge difference for me. That's another thing, is just getting more comfortable at the bottom of your squat. I feel like when I first started squatting, I was so sure that I was just never going to be able to get to parallel or ass to grass, whatever you want to call it. I would get frustrated every time I squatted. I hated seeing videos of myself squat, and I just hated squatting in general because I was so embarrassed of my depth. I had very poor hip mobility. Like I said, I have the longer legs. My ankle mobility was bad. So I'll actually put videos of my squat. I think I have one from pretty close to when I first started squatting. It's pretty rough. So just to kind of show you how my squat has changed, this will be a video of me squatting right around when I first started squatting. I might have been doing it for a couple weeks, but I didn't have much experience, and this was when my form was pretty much the worst that it's ever been. This is a video of me squatting just the other day. Keep in mind, this is an angle from the back, which I feel like angles from the back don't always make the squat look the deepest. But if you like actually look at my thigh, knee, and like upper calf area, you can see that my thigh and calf are actually like pushed together. So I'm like way past 90, past parallel, all that, which is crazy for me. That's like never happened before until just these past few leg days. But yeah, I hated it, and I thought that it was only because of like my tight hips and my tight ankles and, oh, I have long legs, so I'm never going to be able to squat to depth. But a lot of it was also just a lack of strength in that bottom position. So the more that I've just kind of gotten comfortable hanging out down there, whether it's pulsing reps, pausing reps, or even just like slow and controlled, and like making sure I really get down there before I start to push back up, has helped tremendously. I don't feel as rushed during my squats, which is big. I used to feel like the second I hit depth, I need to shoot back up or else I'm gonna fall because I had no strength at the bottom. So getting comfortable at the bottom of the squat has also made a huge difference for me. I gotta look at my little cheat sheet here so I don't forget. So like I did mention dropping the weight in order to focus on the form. This is something I feel like I've done like probably 4 times. I feel like I've gone through these little like 6-month periods where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna work on my form and my mobility and my depth, and I start at like a lower weight. It used to be like 95 pounds. I would like start at 95 pounds, be like, okay, yeah, I'm getting really deep, this is great, I'm hitting 90, and then I would start increasing the weight and still hit similar depth, but then I'd get up to like say 155 or 185, and then I'd see a video of myself squatting and I'd be like, shit, I am still not hitting depth. So then I'd be like, okay, drop the weight again, restart, get a little bit deeper, do the same thing, add the weight, hit the same depth, and then see that I'm still really not squatting that deep, and just start over. And it's like a cycle that's happened quite a few times. And in between these cycles, I've also done heel elevated squats, which I feel like helped a little bit because it got me used to being down lower, because when my heels are up, it takes some of the pressure off of your ankles. Like, they don't have to be quite as flexible in order to get down into a deeper squat. So I feel like that allowed me to just get used to being down there, kind of allowed some of my muscles to feel what it feels like to be in that low squat, allowed my hips to feel it. So yeah, I think that did contribute a little bit, but dropping the weight, like I was saying, I've gone through these cycles, and I just did it again recently with this new program I'm starting, because I still want to improve my depth before I go really heavy. But yeah, dropping the weight so that you can really get as low as you can. No ego lifting. You got to keep your ego aside for this. It can be very like disappointing to have to kind of start over with the weight, but the strength will come back faster than it did the first time. At least personally for me, it did. When I drop the weight and kind of start over and go deeper, it does not take me as long to get back up to like 185 as it did the first time I ever started squatting. I feel like because you still have like more muscle development overall and in all the other spots, and strength in all of your other spots. It's just like going to be a few little muscles that aren't used to being worked in that certain way at the bottom of the squat, but they'll catch up and it won't take quite as long. So don't be super discouraged with the amount of weight that's on the bar. Another thing that I feel like has helped me, and I'm also working on this right now, is front squats. So if you see my videos, I absolutely hate doing front squats. I feel like for me, because I hinge and lean over a little bit in my squat, front squats don't work because you can't lean over or else you're going to drop the bar. I still do sometimes, and I end up like holding the bar onto me, which is definitely not what you want to do, but it's forcing me to really focus on just dropping my hips, pushing my knees out, and keeping my chest up, which, although I'm probably still going to lean forward in my back squats because of my build, it's helping me focus on that form that I mentioned earlier of just dropping my hips down instead of like pushing my butt back first. And that's going to help with hip mobility. They help with core strength, which can also be a factor. I know that's a factor for me. My core is lacking, so that affects my back squat. But yeah, I feel like it helps my ankles a little bit, helps the core, and it just helps you really dial in that form. You can do them heel elevated if you need to. That's what I've done in the past to kind of get me to be able to do regular front squats. So that's an option too. If you can't quite get all the way down to where you want to with flat front squats, you could do heel elevated with a plate. And you can always start with like a thicker 45-pound plate and then progress down to a thinner plate and then progress to the floor if that's something you need to do, but that's always an option. And then also, I feel like another thing is just being patient and working on it. It's taken me, I think I've been squatting for like 2 years now, or yeah, somewhere around 2 years, and my squat's still not perfect. It's finally getting to a point where I'm not ashamed of it. Not to say it's going to take you 2 years. Learn from my mistakes and take my tips, but just squatting more frequently, put it in all of your leg days if you can. The more you get used to being under the bar, going through those motions, the more it's going to improve. Don't expect perfection in a couple of weeks. Give yourself some time. Don't be embarrassed. Everybody starts somewhere. Some people have a good squat without trying because of whether it's a sport they did or their body mechanics or whatever. They're flexible. It's okay if you don't have a perfect squat right away. It's something for you to work towards. It only matters that you're doing better than you did last time and that you're working towards it. But yeah, just frequency, just squatting as much as you can, or not as much weight as you can, but like as frequently as you can without overtraining, obviously. The more practice you get in, the better it's gonna be. I have squats programmed into every single one of my leg days. I have front squats programmed into, I think it's every other leg day. Yeah, it's every other leg day. But I'm also doing, on one of those leg days, I'm doing like anywhere from like 5 to 10 sets of squats. It's some crazy amount. So I'm really working on that frequency part still. And I've already seen improvements in like the past 2 leg days. Just from some of these things I said, like focusing on dropping my hips, the front squats, dropping the weight, the frequency, the good warm up. So these are all still things that I'm working on, but they have helped me improve my squat tremendously. So I wanted to share them in case anybody is struggling or is looking for some pointers to improve their squat depth. And like I said, I'm gonna work on a video showing the mobility and stretching that I do to improve the squat, and then just some general stretching that I do as well. That'll probably be sometime this week or next week, I'm not sure, but that'll definitely be coming. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.